Okay, guys. Well, this is the Viper alarm we're gonna be installing today on the Mazda. What is it? The Mazda 3. Okay, so what I like to do first is I like to take all the components out, and by this time you should already have a wiring diagram printed out or on your phone, whatever, so that you know already firsthand what wires you're gonna use. We will be wiring up some relays, and I will be showing you guys how to wire the relays for the aftermarket door lock actuators. Okay, so we're gonna start off by doing that. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you guys is how to wire the relays for the aftermarket door lock actuators. Okay, so as you can see, you have 86, 87, 85, 30, and 87A. Okay, in this instance, we're gonna use the color black for our 12-volt constant wire that's gonna feed constant power to the door locks, so that every time that the customer activates or deactivates his alarm, he has power to the relays, which is gonna power the door locks. Remember, like I said earlier, these aftermarket door locks work on reverse polarity, so it's gonna have power and ground both at the same time, always. Okay, so the way we're gonna wire is we're gonna take our first connector here, and we're gonna daisy chain this between poles number 87 and 86 on both of our relays. Okay, so we're gonna daisy chain it. So that's 87 and 86, right? So we're gonna come around with this one and go back up again to 87. And we're gonna add one more. We're gonna add one more to the 86 here. And from here, the wire that's gonna come out, you're gonna attach that to your 12-volt constant, provided by whatever color indicator shows you on your wire diagram in your particular vehicle. Like I said, don't go off based off the colors I'm gonna give you, because that's just for this vehicle in particular. You do need, I can't stress enough having your actual wiring diagram for your actual vehicle. Be specific on the year, make, and model. Okay. So as you can see, we got one wire coming out, which is gonna go to our 12-volt. I always like to leave it long enough just so that we don't know exactly where we're gonna locate it yet. So once we find out, what you're gonna do is, to these two middle ones, which is 87A, you're gonna ground that. Okay, you're gonna put a direct ground to those, and your 85s are gonna be your pulses from your alarms, your blue and green wire from your alarm, which is gonna send the unlock and the lock signal, lock and unlock signal. And on the 30s, we're gonna hook up both of our motors so that these both relays, they act, or they work in conjunction together, to open and close once the relays are activated by the pulses of the alarm. Okay, so keep in mind that you do need to have ground on the 87s at all time. So make sure that these two always have a direct ground, okay? Okay, so now that we've identified through our wiring diagram what colors exactly we're going to use, you can go ahead and start prepping your alarm. Because a lot of these wires you're not going to use. It really depends on the type of vehicle. So they add all these extra wires so that, you know, depending on the specific vehicle that you're going to use, then you don't necessarily have to connect every wire on every vehicle. It varies. Okay. And this alarm in particular, it's already got the starter kill relay built into here, so that's what these two black wires are going to be for. And we'll get to that as soon as we go to start wiring, right? But I just wanted to show you how I kind of prep my alarm before I get started, so that you don't have all these excess wires that you know you're not going to use once you're in there. These two we're going to leave to the side for now, because we do have to install them prior to plugging them into the alarm. So what I like to do is, I like to leave these to the side, and so I tape prior to my fuses, and then right after my fuses, just so that it keeps everything in line, keeps them straight, you know, keeps them in one position, so that if you ever need to change them out for some reason, then you know you can access them easily. They're not flipped around or whatever. And this knob here is for your shock sensor. Okay, so I always like to turn it all the way up, all the way down, and then bring it about halfway, 60% at the most, because if not, they become too sensitive. So in this vehicle, we know we're gonna use the red and yellow, which is constant and ignition. The thin blue and green are for our pulses for our lock and unlock. Our white is what you're gonna hook up to your parking lights. The purple is the door trigger positive. So in this case, in this vehicle, it's negative. So we're not gonna use the purple. We're gonna eliminate that one. Red and white is an additional channel you can add for trunk release, or for you know, a hood pin, or some type of accessory you're gonna use. Blue and white is another channel, auxiliary channel that you can use. In this particular vehicle, we don't need to use the orange. The orange is ground when armed, but we have nothing else that we're gonna plug into it, so we're gonna leave it out. And our blue wire we won't need either, because this is an instant trigger. That one usually goes to the trunk pin or the hood pin, but this vehicle doesn't have any. And the only other one we're gonna eliminate is our black and white. Okay, which is also, like I said, an additional auxiliary. So you're really only really left with, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 wires. Okay, 8 wires. Your two wires for your starter kill, and the relays. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and install first the LED bulb, the Valet switch, and the Siren before we get to the actual installation of the alarm. Okay, so in this case, the first thing you gotta do is you gotta find a location, right? So we removed one of the pieces off the dash bezel here, and so we're gonna use one of these slots for our LED. So be careful on drilling the proper size You don't want to overdo it either, you know. Then you got it, you know, kind of jiggling. So there you can see it's nice and tight. So we're gonna leave this one off to the side for now, and then we're gonna find a spot for the valet switch, right? And installing all this prior to installing your alarm will make everything a lot easier and a lot quicker once you're actually. So we're gonna set the valet switch right here. We're actually gonna go, we're gonna go a little higher. We're gonna go somewhere right here. Okay. There you have your valet switch. Okay, so next what we need to do is we need to install our siren. And what we need to do in order to get our siren installed is find an access route, an access hole, right? So a lot of these have a spot where you can drill through because of vehicles that are manual transmissions, so they leave a spot always open for where okay, so now that we have our access hole, we've already identified where our access point is, and so now we already have our wire guide through. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna tape the end of your cable here for your siren to your wire feeder. Slide it back down. As you can see, there we have our alarm already, or our siren, coming through over and in. Okay, so now we gotta find the proper where to mount it, which in this case, in this vehicle, I think this would be the easiest access. Okay, so you take your drill, take your 1/2-inch self-tapping screws. There goes one. So I'll hold that in place. And there you go. There's our installation of our siren. Now we're gonna head back inside. So right now what we're doing is that we're gonna identify the few wires we're missing, okay? And we're gonna make our connections here. All right. So we got black, red in this vehicle as our constant. We have gray, black as our starter. We're gonna peel these, and the starter wire is really the only wire you're gonna cut because we need to add the relay for it in order to prevent it from starting once the alarm is activated. We're gonna use some barrel connectors. For the other ones, we have our 3M T-tap connectors. already in place. And we have 2 more wires to identify. One being the ignition, which our diagram shows us it's a green yellow. So we're gonna take our green yellow wire here. And the way to test this properly is to insert the key into the ignition. And you take, I use a utility knife and take my power probe, right? It reads 12 volts. And so now you click it all the way through like you're gonna start it to make sure it doesn't lose power. And that's what identifies as what we call a true ignition. True ignition because it never loses power. There's some wires you got to be careful with because when you hit when you turn it to actually start it, sometimes they'll lose power. Okay, so now the only other cable we need to find is our parking lights. So here it's telling me that we can use the negative, which will be a black white located at the light switch, which is right here, right next to our steering column. Right, so we're gonna look for the plug that goes to there. And we're gonna look for a black and white wire that when we turn the switch, it's gonna give us a ground pulse. So we found the ground, black and white. This isn't it because it's only supposed to activate once we turn the switch. We got another one here. So you see how that right here it's resting on 12 volts, and when I turn the switch, just want you guys to see it properly, it's gonna go to ground. Okay, so that's the wire we're gonna use for our parking lights. These alarms, I'll show you in a minute, come with a switch where you can choose to either use, that didn't click in right. It gives you the option to use a positive or a negative polarity. There we go. So we have everything we need, guys, in order to install our alarm. So let's go ahead and get started with that. We're gonna start by bringing in our alarm module here. Okay. And this vehicle, we're lucky enough that there's a lot of room. You'll run into some vehicles where the room is really limited. So we're gonna go ahead and set this up somewhere up here where it's not so easy to access. Sorry, we're gonna go ahead and double this up. gonna slide this here through our plug. So we got it there. Okay. So we already know these wires. These two black wires are gonna go to our starter, right? So, and there really is no polarity on these. So we're gonna go ahead and add a zip tie here to hold these two in place. Okay. So here's one side. Here's our other side. Okay. We're gonna strip both of these ends. So we've attached there our starters. Right, next we're gonna hook up our Siren. So we're gonna bring this cable up through here. You wanna make sure you always install the ground first before you actually add any power to your alarm. Just for security reasons, so that you don't take the risk of burning the brain or shorting it out. So we're gonna use our black and brown wires. So we're gonna cut it about right there. It's about an even length. Again, you're gonna strip both ends. On the ground, we already know we're gonna need a few grounds, extra grounds. So we're gonna go ahead and seal these. And then you got your Siren wire, which is your brown. Okay. So we're gonna ground just one of these, because the other ones we're gonna use for our relays. Okay, so we're gonna find a good place to ground. Make sure there's no paint on the surface. Grab one of your 1/2-inch self-tapping screws. Okay. So now we can go ahead and wire in go around here. Okay, we'll leave those hanging. And so we also have our other 2 wires coming from the side here, which we said one was going to be used for our door trigger, which is the green wire. The other one is coming from the door lock actuator we installed. All right, so you're going to bring these up and through here, along with the plug for the valet switch. We're gonna keep these together like so. And a little tape just so that you know they're not all sloppy. So we're gonna go in and around. Gonna go over. Help keep it up. I'm gonna bring this here. Okay, and so since we know that the trigger for this was negative, we're gonna go and cut this here. We're gonna grab our green, which is our door trigger, and green is for the negative. Now that we have this over here, we can plug this one in. Okay, you can take this excess, wrap it to a quick little bundle here. Take some tape. Then we'll zip tie everything at the end. So now we're gonna wire the relays for our door lock actuators, which we had previously wired up. And so we're gonna make these both the same length. Remember, these are our motors, right? Ah, que ya va a terminar.
El Excel, ¿cómo trabajas, güey?
Imagínate si me descubrieran los rusos.
Te llevan a la NASA.
Ya me hubieran llevado, hijo. ¿Ya a poco ya quedan las costillas?
Creo que ya.
¿Cómo que creo? Tienen que estar bien cocinadas por dentro, mijo, ¿eh? ¿Ya las picaste? A ver si están listas.
Cállate, ya quedaron.
No, cabrón, no quiero que estén crudas.
Tú cállate, porque ya me quedaron perronas. Como si las hubieras hecho el tú, güey. Bien quemadas, pero bien cocidas.
Valiendo verga.
Bien
¿Cómo la ven con mi cuñada, raza? Ya quemó.
¡Está grabando!
Está grabando. Sí. Ya dice que ya quemó las pinches costillas, el loco este.
Tú cállate, Javi.
Ahí voy.
Pero bien buenas. ¿Y el alcohol?
Que no falte. Okay, so we're just gonna put a zip tie on this for right now. Well, actually, not even yet. We're not even gonna do that yet. We're gonna feed the 12 volts over here. Okay, so for now we're gonna wire up the relay. So we're gonna give these some ground right here. So again, the ground goes in 87A, which is the middle one. Ábrele si quieres.
¿Andas grabando?
Sí.
¿Estás grabando, güey?
Simón. Okay, then we're gonna use 2 pulse wires.
¿Le cierro la...?
Nah, sí, déjale abierto.
¿Le cierro ya?
Simón. So this is how you can try the first time. Before you plug both of them in, you can try one. Let me grab the remote. So what I always do is that, so here's what it's gonna look like. All right, tuck this in a little bit farther like that. And we're gonna add this here. Okay, so that as you can hear, our alarm's working, door locks are working, door trigger's working. So this is what your relay pack's supposed to look like right here. Okay? That's exactly what it's supposed to look like. And then so now I'm going to show you the door lock. There's your unlock. All right. There's your lock. Okay, one more time. Unlock. Lock. Unlock. Lock. Okay, and that beep you hear is from the alarm detecting that one of the doors is still open, which we know we're still open because we're still working on it, right? So we're gonna clean this up a little bit before we continue. Point you guys down a little bit. All right, we're gonna tape this up right here. We're gonna come around and we're gonna test it. So right here, our parking lights, when we hit the alarm, should flash now. There you go. So we're pretty much done, guys. That's pretty much all there is to it. We're gonna start buttoning up all the wires, cleaning it up, make it look decent. And as you guys can see, it's not something, super extremely hard. All it requires is some basic knowledge of, how to wire, how to read a polarity, having the right tools, I think for me, one of the biggest things, or one of the key, is having the right tools to provide, to perform the job. So these. Drop this down, slide it in the hole, line it up with your keyhole. All right. Don't forget we have a small little LED bulb that we gotta slide in here. Kind of keep your finger on it so it doesn't come out. Snaps in place. Other side snaps in place. Then you got 1, 2, you got 3 screws. That are gonna go under here, under this cover. And we want to put this back before we get the dash panel back under there. That way we're not struggling later. Just screw it in. There's 1. There's 2. There's 1 very way back here. That's 3. Okay, with that in, we can now snap the OBD2 connector back in. Get the dimmer plug back in its spot. That one don't worry about too much. Okay. I'm gonna bring this up and over. Lift this handle up. Snap that into place. Snap this side into place. Bada wah, bada boom. Okay. We got a few more little connectors to do here. Grab all these tools we don't need anymore. Grab all this tape. Grab our zip ties. There's only really one other screw that we need to set for this cover. And that one goes right back here. Right back in here. Okay. And so now we can snap this guy in. So we're gonna go ahead and put this in place before we snap it in. Put the cable in. It's got a small groove and a small notch. Comes around. Bam. Then all you're gonna do is take it in here, put it in here, and snaps into place. That's it. We got one panel on this side we gotta put in. It's got a small notch here, and you'll see the hole there. Okay, we're gonna line that up. Take your clip. Clip that back into place. Now we've got our kick panel. Snap this kick panel back into place. Take your clip. Snap it in place. And snap our kick panel back in place. And we are done. It's a wrap, guys.